Hello and welcome to News Central TV. I am Adebola Adedugba, and here are stories making the headlines beyond the continent. We begin the news in Asia, where China's Chang'e 6 probe returned to Earth on Tuesday in a global fest with rock and soil samples from the little explored far side of the moon. The probe landed in the Inner Mongolia region of northern China on Tuesday afternoon. While past US and Soviet missions have collected samples from the moon's near side, the Chinese mission was the first to collect samples from the far side. Chinese scientists anticipate the samples will include 2.5 million-year-old volcanic rock, another material that scientists hope will answer questions about differences between the moon's two sides. And to talk about this, I am joined by our international correspondent, Afia Hagen. Afia, tell me why this particular mission to the moon is so significant.
Well, this mission is so significant because it went to the far side of the moon. And usually when we have had past explorations that have gone to the moon, it's usually the near side. The far side is obviously further to get to. And because a relay satellite is used to maintain communications, and that makes it much more difficult. Now, we only see one side of the moon because the moon is synchronized with us and goes around its orbit at the same time as we do. Now, this particular probe left on the 3rd of May to collect samples, which are going to answer some fundamental questions in lunar science research, such as what geological activity is responsible for the differences between the two sides of the moon. Now, where this probe landed is called the Aitken Basin and is an impact crater which is 8 miles deep and 1,500 miles wide, and it's thought to have been created 4 billion years ago, and we don't know what by. It's the oldest and largest crater on the moon, and like I said, it's supposed to provide significant information about the original impact that went on there and the ejected materials below its surface, and also it can tell us a lot about the moon, why one side is so different from the other, and of course whether it's inhabitable.
Okay, let's talk some more now about technology. Do you think Chinese technology advanced space exploration?
Well, absolutely. Look, the return of this particular probe, which is called Chang'e 6, is delivered the world's first lunar exploration on that side, and that is really a particular advancement. It executed a robotic soft landing on the moon, which is particularly hard. In the past, 3 missions before that have ended in failure, and one was only a partial success. But this particular probe managed to do that, did it on the far side, and it also executed a number of complex operations, many of them autonomously, bringing back samples, like I said, like rock and soil from this unexplored particular part of the moon. And that has scientists very excited because it's never happened before. And of course, this means that there is a new space race between China and the rest of the world.
Now, what does this say about China's place in the space race?
Well, yeah, it means that China is probably far more advanced than it thought it would be at this point in the space race. The US and China clearly are the two leaders that are at the forefront of this, and both countries wanted to put an astronaut on the moon and walk on its surface by 2030. Now, NASA was planning to carry out its mission in 2026. If we have China that have managed to land this probe on the far side of the moon, that could mean that their technology is more advanced and they are far more along. Now, these missions are always beset by delays, whether it's weather, whether it's the technology. But it looks like China could beat the US to put a man on its moon and walk on the surface, and perhaps build a permanent space station in the South Pole of the moon as well. The South Pole is advantageous because scientists believe that there's ice there, and if there's ice, then that means there's water, and if there's water, that means it's possible to inhabit inhabit that part of the moon. So US and China neck and neck, but China certainly have taken a leap forward with this particular mission.
Well, thank you so much for your insight on the news. Afia Hagan, our international correspondent. Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Mao Ning in Beijing on Tuesday expressed profound grief over the people who died in the South Korean explosion and expressed sincere condolences to the families of the victims. A fire at a South Korean lithium factory killed 23 people, mostly Chinese migrant workers, in the country's deadliest blaze in years. More than 100 people were working at a factory in Hwaseong, just south of Seoul, when a fire tore through it on Monday morning. Security cameras showed smoke engulfing the second-floor work site of the factory. Now, soon after, sparks were detected from a site where lithium batteries were stored.
对于在事故中不幸遇难的人员深表哀悼，向伤者和遇难者家属表示诚挚的慰问。中国政府对于火灾造成中方人员重大伤亡高度重视。
In Europe, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has dismissed a top general after public criticism about excessive casualties and accusations of incompetence. Lieutenant General Yuri Sodol has been in the post of the commander of the Joint Forces of the Armed Forces of Ukraine since earlier this year. Brigadier General Andriy Yantov has now been appointed in his stead. Zelensky did not give a reason for his decision. However, just a few hours earlier, Major Bogdan Krochevich, the chief of staff of the Azov Brigade, complained to the State Bureau of Investigation, claiming that General Sodol had more Ukrainian soldiers killed than any Russian general.
З військовими зранку були главком, начальник Генерального штабу, міністр оборони. Обговорили ситуацію на ключових напрямках. Найбільша увага зараз Донеччині і постачанню нашим силам усього, що необхідно. Обговорили також і кадрові питання в Збройних силах України. Я ухвалив рішення замінити командувача Об'єднаних сил Збройних сил України генерал-лейтенанта Юрія Содоля на бригадного генерала Андрія.
We also understand that the European Union has officially launched accession negotiations with Ukraine, a step described as historic by both Brussels and Kyiv while in Luxembourg. The UK Prime Minister, Denis Shmyhal, spoke of opening a new beginnings between Kyiv and European Union, in light of Moscow's military gains nearly 2.5 years after the Kremlin's invasion. This historic action now represents a vote of confidence in Kyiv's future.
Dear friends, today marks the beginning of a new chapter in the relationship between Ukraine and the European Union. We want to extend our big gratitude to all of you for your work. Today, we celebrate an important victory on Ukraine's path to European integration. And at the same time, the start of negotiations is a significant step towards our shared great victory. Together we will prevail. Together we will build a safe, prosperous, and strong Europe from Lisbon to Lugansk. Slava Ukraini!
Of Ukraine. Your country is part of Europe, European history, heritage, and culture. We look forward to future intensifying or already well established.
The International Criminal Court issued arrest warrants for Sergei Shoigu, the former Russian defense minister, and Russian General Valery Gerasimov on Tuesday for alleged crimes committed during Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The Hague-based court says Shoigu and Gerasimov were suspected of having committed war crimes and crimes against humanity for directing attacks against civilians and civilian objects in Ukraine, and the judges had found there were reasonable grounds to believe the two suspects bear responsibility for missile strikes carried out by the Russian armed forces against the Ukrainian electric infrastructure between October 10, 2022 and March 9, 2023, the ICC said in a press release. Italy has condemned Russia for blocking access to dozens of European media outlets, saying it would not erase the effect of violent, devastating and illegal war in Ukraine. The Foreign Ministry said Italian outlets affected the RAI and LA's 7 broadcasters and newspapers, La Repubblica and La Stampa, had covered the Ukraine war objectively, and adds that the ban does not remove or lessen the effect of a violent, devastating and illegal war. You're watching Beyond the Continent. Let's take a short break. Stay with us. Thank you for staying tuned. WikiLeaks has announced that its founder, Julian Assange, has left the UK after striking the deal with US authorities. Now, this agreement will see Assange plead guilty to criminal charges, allowing him to walk free after a prolonged legal battle. Assange had been charged with conspiracy to obtain and disclose national defense information, with US officials arguing that WikiLeaks' disclosures about the Iraq and Afghanistan wars had endangered lives. For the past 5 years, Assange has been fighting extradition to US from a British prison. In addition to the US charges, Assange faced separate allegations of rape and sexual assault in Sweden, which he has consistently denied. The deal, which involves Assange pleading guilty to one charge under the Espionage Act, is expected to be finalized in court in Northern Mariana Islands on Wednesday, June 26th. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz on Tuesday inaugurated a 4.5 billion euro development project launched by Siemens after 7 years of preparations with the Berlin municipality and dozens of partners. The project is at the heart of Semistadt, a vast workers' housing estate built at the beginning of the 20th century, which the group wants to revive by carrying out one of the largest urban development projects in the German capital. According to Scholz, the new site will be a showcase for the city of the future, describing it as proof that it is possible to build a sustainable and climate-friendly way.
Zeit. Aber die Weiterentwicklung dieses Stadtquartiers, die wir heute anstoßen, ist viel mehr als nur ein Neubauvorhaben. Sie wollen mit dem Projekt die Welten von Arbeit und Forschung, Wohnen und Leben auf neue Weise verbinden, Welten, die bei Licht betrachtet auch in der historischen Siemensstadt bereits zusammen gedacht wurden. Die neue Siemensstadt wird so auch ein Schaufenster in die Stadt der Zukunft und zum Beweis dafür, dass man auch zu überschaubaren Kosten nachhaltig und klimafreundlich bauen kann.
Was jetzt schon deutlich wird, die neue Siemensstadt ist mehr als nur ein Stadtteil Berlins. Sie ist ein Spiegel der Geschichte Siemens in allen Facetten. Ein Ort, der zeigt, dass Industrie weiterhin Teil unseres Landes und unserer Städte sein wird. Ein Ort, an dem Deutschland zeigt, was Deutschland kann, wenn wir zusammenarbeiten, auch über Grenzen hinweg. Ein Ort, der nachhaltiger ist und an dem wir zeigen, wie wir Städte nachhaltig machen können auf der ganzen Welt. Ein Ort, an dem sich die Reale mit der digitalen Welt verbindet. Ein Ort, an dem sich gut arbeiten und leben lässt. Vielen Dank.
Still in the region, Turkey has released a German national jailed for alleged membership in an armed Kurdish group that Ankara considers a terror organization. Emin Ozahasa, a lawyer with the rights group MLSA, told newsmen on Tuesday that Patrick Krekar was released and is currently at a repatriation center in Ankara and is set to return to Germany on Wednesday. The 29-year-old Krekar was arrested by Turkish police in March 2018 in the southeastern province in Sinak and jailed for 6 years and 3 months. However, his mother, Claudia Shimok, claimed that her son's confession in the police custody was obtained under pressure and without an interpreter. And now to health matters. Despite a minor decline in recent years, the World Health Organization reported on Tuesday that alcohol remains unacceptably high and kills close to 3 million people annually. The United Nations Health Agency's latest report on alcohol and health said alcohol causes nearly 1 in 20 deaths globally each year through drunk driving, alcohol-induced violence and abuse, and a multitude of diseases and disorders. The report said 2.6 million deaths were attributed to alcohol consumption in 2019, the latest available data accounting for 4.7% of all deaths worldwide that year. WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus said early 3/4 of those deaths were in men.
Key findings of the report include total alcohol per capita consumption in the world population decreased slightly from 5.7 liters in 2010 to 5.5 liters in 2019. The highest levels of per capita consumption in 2019 were observed in the WHO European region, 9.2 liters, and the region of America, 7.5 liters. The level of alcohol consumption per capita among drinkers amounts to average of 27 grams of pure alcohol per day, which is roughly equivalent to 2 glasses of wine, 2 bottles of beer, or 2 servings of spirits. This level and frequency of drinking is associated with increased risks of numerous health conditions. The report also highlights that despite some reduction in the alcohol-related death rates since 2010, the overall number of deaths due to alcohol consumption remains unacceptably high and amounts to 2.6 million in 2019, with the highest numbers in the European region and the African region.
In North America, Canada has urged its citizens in Lebanon to leave while they can, warning of the risk of escalating violence between Israel and Hezbollah in the region. Now, Foreign Minister Marlene Joly, in a statement on Tuesday, called for Canadians to depart while commercial flights remain in operation. Joly said the security situation in Lebanon is becoming increasingly volatile and due to sustained and escalating violence between Hezbollah and Israel, and could deteriorate further without warning. Now let's head to the Middle East, where Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, has called for high participation in Friday's presidential election to replace Ibrahim Raisi, who died last month in a helicopter crash. In a televised speech on Tuesday, 3 days ahead of the vote, Khamenei emphasized the importance of high participation in the election because it is the pride of the Islamic Republic. He adds that voters have the choice between 6 candidates who were selected by the Guardian Council in an elected body dominated by conservatives from the 80 hopeful who had filed their candidacy. Now the 3 front-runners are considered to be Conservative Parliament Speaker Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf, ultra-conservative former nuclear negotiator Saeed Jalili, and reformist lawmaker Massoud Pezeshkian.
مشارکت بالا که ما روش خیلی اصرار میکنیم به خاطر این است که مهمترین اثر مشارکت بالا سرافرازی جمهوری اسلامی است. در هر انتخاباتی که مشارکت کم بوده زبان ملامت دشمنان جمهوری اسلامی و حساد جمهوری اسلامی دراز شده. بعضی از سیاسیون در کشور ما تصور میکنن که باید آویزان به این قدرت و اون قدرت بشن. بدون آویزان شدن به فلان قدرت معروف و بزرگ کشور نمیشه پیش رفت. بعضی اینجور فکر میکنن. یا خیال میکنن که همه راههای پیشرفت از آمریکا میگذره.
The aftermath of the overnight strike on the Al-Maghazi refugee camp in central Gaza Strip, where Palestinians inspect the rubble amid destroyed buildings. Israeli forces on Tuesday bombarded the camp where Palestinian officials said one strike killed 10 family members of Hamas Qatar-based political chief Ismail Haniyeh, including his sister. Israel's military did not immediately confirm the early morning strike. The Civil Defense Agency in Hamas-ruled Gaza said the strike hit the family's house in northern Al-Shanti refugee camp, leaving some bodies trapped under the rubble.
قاعدين في الغرفة ما شفنا إلا غير الشبابيك كلهن هيلات علينا والردم كله وش بدي يقول واحد الله يرحمهم بالخمسة في بنت طفلة وفي بنت أطفال بس هذاك الولد يعني الشاب الثاني
امبارح على الساعة 9 في الليل ما بنتفاجأ إلا والصاروخ نازل على دار جيراننا دار نصر ولا إلهم الناس ولا في مقاومة ولا في أي فصيل ولا إلهم دخل ناس غلابة على الله بيشتغلوا عشان يجيبوا قوت يومهم ما بنتفاجأ إلا التضوى أحمر وكل الدار تبعتهم مولعة نار وشهداء ودمار.
The head of the UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees on Tuesday underlined the funding gap, saying the agency has a budget until the end of August. Felipe Lazzarini told a press conference in Geneva that he is referring to the regular budget, which is the backbone of the organization that covers 30,000 staff. Regarding the funding of emergency appeals, Lazzarini said the appeal on the occupied Palestinian territory is funded by 15 to 18%, while the appeal on Syria is about 15% funded. He also notes that UNRWA still needs to raise additional $100 to $140 million to pay its operating expenses for the remainder of the year. And that's all on Beyond the Continent. Send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on the screen and do follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch us live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Adebola Adeduba. It's bye for now.